Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate S and S. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day today. So, just kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the inflation and food costs stuff that we're seeing, and we get a lot of comments in here where people are like, we're not really seeing it in my area, and that's good that you're not seeing it in those areas. Where are you shopping at? I understand there's not a whole lot of people in the area where I live. When you start looking into the rural areas or the communities where you have people who maybe don't make as much money as they do in the cities and stuff. So if you're shopping at these real big stores where it costs, $100 a year or whatever to be able to have the ability to shop in these mega supermarkets. All right. If you're shopping at normal stores, you will see those availabilities dropping, and you're going to see it in the bigger stores as well. But understand, because they charge for memberships, they want to make sure to have stuff on the shelves for the people that have more money. They don't really care about the poor. That's just the way it is around the world. It has always been that way. And the fact is, we're all guilty of it. You might toss a dollar or a quarter to the person who's panhandling on the side of the street just to get them out of your face. That is not doing a good deed. That is just placating to get them out of your face so you don't have to see that part of society. And we're all guilty of that. So, what do you have to do to balance out your budget? Well, it's going to depend on the size of your family, what your incomes and things like that are. There actual choices where people are having to make choices where they're looking at what their kids are crying for, what they really want, which is like Lunchable snacks or whatever, the little simple stuff. And you see it at the registers now when you come in. They're watching the money as it comes up, and then they'll stop the cashier. And they're like, hey, just stop right there. I don't have any more money for the rest of the stuff. And I have to take the rest of it off, or they have to start making decisions about what it is that they're going to keep versus put back on the shelves, because they don't have the money to pay for everything. And every week that is happening because the cost continues to go up, the availability and supply continues to go down. We as a society need to wake up and look around and see what's happening around us, because if we continue with this thing about as long as it's not hitting in my home and not happening under my roof, then it's not happening at all. That is a very dangerous stance to take on things. It really is. And the reason it's dangerous is because we go, well, it's not as bad. So there was one comment, went ahead and left it up. We're going to go ahead and address on that. And people are like, well, they've been saying since, before Trump, that back with Obama, they've been saying that, we're going to have martial law eventually, or, these costs of food's going to get ridiculous, not going to have as much food and things like that. So they've been saying this for years, so we don't pay it any mind. We understand that's why it's being delayed. This is controlled. This is not something that's just happening. This is a controlled outroll. Okay, and the reason they slowed it down is because a lot of people were like, okay, well, so we need to start stocking up. So people were stocking up, getting ready, getting prepared. So then they just delay that a little bit. Then they delay it some more. Then they delay it some more. Why? Well, because it creates a sense of complacency. And once you're complacent, then you can look at it and say, well, they've been saying this forever. And that even goes back to different things that happens around us in society. What you can take to the bank, I will tell you this, is inanimate objects don't harm people. What harms people is people who are, mentally ill, people who have been pushed too far sighted. They feel like they don't have other options and stuff like that. People who feel that they have been forgotten by the people around them. What can you do to help the world around you? Understand, if you reach out and love the people that you're affecting in that way, they're going to have a little bit more positive type of an attitude toward things. Right now, we're seeing a lot of different stuff where we have the Republicans in name only up there, and they're wanting to push their own gun legislations and things like that. My recommendation is vote them out. Get rid of the rhinos. Get them out of there. You got to get rid of those people. They are Republican in name only. They are not true conservatives. They care nothing about the Constitution. They have sold themselves out, and they are now looking to sell you out. So it's time to get rid of those types of people. But it all comes back to an example. The very first murder in human history was Cain murders Abel with a rock. Did God come down and say, okay, well, it's time to get rid of all the rocks, because apparently rocks are bad? No. There are states, there are countries, I should say, that do not have the Second Amendment. If you look at places such as Japan, they have mass stabbings. I'm talking they go out when they go with knives and they just mass stab a bunch of different people in subways, waiting on subways and things like that, waiting in line for trains and stuff, going through public and just start stabbing people. So it's not the object that should be outlawed or banned. It is the people, the mentality that needs to be, if these people are to that point, then they need help. They need help. That's what it comes down to. What has pushed them to that point? Nobody cares. It's easier to just blame and say, well, this is what it is, and we'll get rid of that. Understand, none of this stuff is happening that's new. None of it's new. None of it's increasing. That is not really increasing in what's happening. But what is increasing is the media coverage of it and the way that it's being blown out of proportion and things like that. Anytime someone dies, anytime there is, a mass shooting or a mass stabbing or any type of an event like that, yes, we as society, we should look at it and we should be trying to figure out what is it that is in society that is making people come to this term. A lot of times in schools and things like that is because they are being bullied and they're sick of their crap. And that's why they do it. It's not justifying their action. That's telling you why, what's happening. We live in a society where we talk about this tolerance stuff, but understand, unless you are in their social clique, you're not going to be tolerated. You're not going to be accepted. Nothing has changed. All it is a society of people who says, well, you should see things my way, or you're not going to fit into the group. And that is what we're still seeing. It has not changed. All it has changed the social structure of which group is on top. And why is that group on top? Well, because we live in a day where sin has increased. That is where we are at in society today. And for those who believe, we know that at some point soon, hopefully very soon, we'll see when, nobody knows, but the church will be removed out of here. Now, for those you sitting back, well, they've been saying this for hundreds or thousands of years. Well, yes, they have. And understand that whenever those responses about, well, they've been saying this since, 1,000 years ago, since 2,000 years ago. The Bible actually says that when people start getting to the point where they're scoffing and saying that exact same thing, that, oh, this has been going on since, our fathers and forefathers before us, that they've been saying this, and yeah, okay, well, they've reached a sense of complacency. And if you look at the plan of the governments around the world, and you look at the plan of our enemy, our spiritual enemy, it matches up. So that tells you who's running the governments. It creates a sense of complacency, and that's where we are at in society today. People they walk around and they claim to be believers, but they don't have a true relationship. They don't understand what it is to get out of the religious aspect and accept the truth as what it is, and hold that to that truth in their lives. Too many times we see people compromise and say, well, I've got to provide for my family, or I have to do this. But understand, faith is not about having faith that you are going to provide for your family. Faith is having the faith that you're going to stand upon your moral principles. You're going to stand upon your true beliefs. And when you do that, you know that regardless of the outcome, that God is going to be in that we are going to get through it, that no matter what, it's going to work out for His glory, not our glory, not our, preferred lifestyle and things. Understand, lifestyles change. And that is where the fall happens to most people, is they go from having a lot to not having much at all. And they can't accept that. Or they go from having a lot of friends to suddenly maybe the groups are no longer accepting them. So they kind of will alter what their belief system is, and they will walk around and say, well, no, I just kind of say that, but I just want to be able to fit in. Well, that is not standing in faith. That is not having a true, stance in life, a foundation. And I don't care what you believe. The main thing is, as long as you believe in something greater than yourself, and you believe that we are accountable for our actions in this life, then you can kind of start to get on the same page with what's happening around us. But too many times people walk around, you see it every day in the stores, people kind of thumbing their nose at what the ones they believe are less than them. And I've seen that myself. I've actually, back when I would wear beards, and trust me, it was nowhere near as long as I've worn in the past, where you walk in and people feel like, they're better than you right off the bat because, oh, this scraggly dude walking around. And it's a real good way to get on the bottom side of society and kind of look and see what's actually happening around you. So next time you go into town, don't dress so nice, dress kind of scummy. See how the world reacts around you. See what happens. You will find people who actually care. You will find people who don't. Well, there was a pastor, and I don't remember his name now, but he had actually come into a church, and he was dressed like he was homeless. He had wore a bunch of really bad, soiled up clothes and stuff, and came in, and the church actually ran him out because they did not want people like that in there when the new pastor arrived. And it turns out that that was actually the new pastor, and that was a really good learning experience for the people in that church. That was a really great thing that I think we all need to realize is we're not all as high as mighty as we think. Money does not make a person. Success does not make a person. It does not make a good person. What it does is it takes our minds and our views, and it shifts it to more of a self-centered type of a deal. What can I do to keep myself comfortable and keep the things that I like in my life? And as long as we're happy in life, then yes, then we can take and we can give things out to the rest. But if you remember back to the event where the widow who had nothing and she gave all that she had, what did the Lord say about that? That she had given more than anybody combined. And that's what the Lord's looking for, not the money. He's looking for that heart of giving, that even though you don't have much, maybe all you have is a smile and you give that to somebody. Maybe you give them a positive word or even just a quick prayer, things like that has a tendency to carry over into society and to be paid forward. And it's only on that type of a route that we're going to get past these types of crazy events with mass shootings and stabbings and all this different crap that's happening in society. Understand these situations that we're seeing develop around us with all this violence. That is a direct result of creating a situation where the state is basically raising your children because you're too busy at work, and they're watching these crappy shows. They're watching these shows that are confusing them at young ages, and they take these people who are just really reprobate in the mind, and they put them in positions to teach your children to do that exact same thing, and to teach others from there as well, and to celebrate it. And unfortunately, unless you were getting your kids into good private schools or home schools, you're going to see this get worse. This situation is not going away. You can come up and you can say, well, we need more law enforcement in schools and things like that. Do what you want. Personally, if I had kids today, they would not be in a public school system at all. And here is why. Number one, they teach evolution as a fact, as a truth. Evolution has never been proven. It is still just a theory. It is a actual theory that Darwin himself said had not been proven, but we're teaching it like it's fact. And if you believe that you came from a scum pool and evolved in from an ape, and that we're just basically an advanced primate with nothing special about us, it is very easy to lose sight of just how precious and special life is. And that is why we have people who think life is cheap and doesn't matter. That's why. This is directly because of the way that our government is set up. It is directly because it is set up by the powers that be, the evil principalities of darkness in high places. That's what's running this stuff. That's who's running the puppet show that we see on TV when you see Congress and Senate, and even these wannabe presidents. Understand the president of the United States is president of the United States. He is not the ruler of the United States federal government. That's what it is. They try to talk like they are, but no. You do not have an elected official up there representing you at all. They are just putting puppets and figureheads up there so they can do what they want, and they can come in and say, well, okay, well, it was this person's fault. But when you really realize what's happening, the whole core of it is corrupt, and it needs to be revamped back to the Constitution. But the reason people don't want the Constitution, the reason people fight against it so much, is not because of the Second Amendment. It is because it was a Constitution that it tells you have inalienable rights given to you by God Almighty. All right, our Creator. That is what the Constitution is based off of. That is what it is based off of. And when you can sit there and say, oh, no, there is no God, then at that point they can do whatever they want because you no longer have a belief system. So stand up for what you believe, not in violence, but stand up in one voice and make sure you're doing what's right for your families. Do not become part of the problem. You can homeschool your children to have remote learning and things like that. That does not cost any more than sending them to public school, and they can do it right at your house. So I would recommend that you look into it, folks. I'm going to get off here. Got a lot of work to do. Have a wonderful day.